As we inch closer and closer to the final release of the Nether update, we meet the arrival of two brand new blocks. The first of these blocks is entirely decorational and is simply the polished variant of the basalt block. It has a smooth pillar-like texture and fits really nicely among greyscale blocks. The second of these is the respawn anchor, and it allows the player to set their spawn point in the Nether without being killed by intentional game design. It can be powered by glowstone and, when used to respawn, uses up a tiny bit of the power it was given. It is also a really expensive but unique decorative block and provides us with a clever way of using the horizontal nether portal design or particles from the portal itself. First up, we have a design using both the top and the bottom of the new respawn anchor block. Now this is a very simple enchantment setup. We have a nice looking arch, we have some bookshelves, some empty bookshelves using the looms, and then we have some glass right beneath the enchantment table with the respawn anchors in their lit state with the nether portal swirls in them. And this looks really mystical and really cool in my opinion. You could add layers of fog as well with extra layers of glass to make it look even more like, possibly like the enchantment tables floating above on some kind of misty layer. But in my opinion, this looks really cool. And above here, we also have the crying obsidian, and mixed with it, we have the unlit version of these blocks, because it's actually a slightly darker variant. It's barely noticeable. I don't think anyone would actually notice it, so it doesn't really make a massive difference. I guess the only other benefit is that it doesn't produce particles if you don't want it to. So yeah, it's a nice ceiling as well. Next up, we have our first wall and floor design, and I must admit there will be quite a few of these coming up. But here we have the polished basalt block mixed with the smoker. Now the smoker has a very, very smooth top, and it's probably one of my favourite textures for a flooring design in my opinion. The wall itself uses a variation of the side versions of the polished basalt and the vertical versions of it, and it looks really cool. It sort of has like a ribbony shape because it kind of curves slightly, and it has a really interesting pattern that you don't really get with many, if any, other blocks in the game. Overall, this is a very monochromatic design. It's just using the grey colours. However, it does still look really interesting and provides us with a really awesome looking pattern for walls and floors. Next up, this is a really interesting floor design using the top of the respawn anchor in its unlit state and the end portal. Now this, it looks really odd. It's very magical, very purpley, bluey, yellowy, all kinds of colours. And it looks really cool and also really weird at the same time. I can imagine this being the flooring of a creative build, since it's pretty difficult, if not impossible, to get the end portal frames in survival mode. And I can imagine this flooring some kind of a magical hallway or something along those lines. Once again, this is a very simple design if you have access to these blocks, and it just looks really nice, but only works in a small number of scenarios. Next up, we're utilising the particles given off by the lit forms of these brand new respawn anchors. And if you put carpet above them, unlike the crying obsidian, the particles actually come through. And this could be really atmospheric in any kind of biome. You could have like a foresty, magical dark oak forest with giant mushrooms or things like that, and you can have these particles here and there, just adding even more detail. And honestly, it's such a cool block. I really like it. Now, believe it or not, this next design is actually possible in survive mode. I believe using giant mushrooms, it's actually possible to get rid of the end portal frames. But you could technically make some kind of portal like this using the respawn anchors, and it does look kind of cool. Of course, it is definitely quite expensive, and it's a lot more accessible in creative mode, but it could be an interesting portal design if you want to do something along those lines, especially since the portal frames themselves would actually be animated. Next up, this is actually more for a just visual guideline if in some kind of trading hall. So, for example, if you're trading with villagers and you want to see what level they are, for example, this one is apprentice, this one is novice, and this one is master, you can use these brand new respawn anchors just to have a quick easy glimpse at what level they are at. So this one has just a single notch activated, so you can immediately tell it's a bit higher than this guy, but it's still not fully level, unlike this one who can't be leveled up any further, as you can see here. And then of course this one has no glowstone added to it, no levels of the respawn anchor, just because no one's traded with it and it hasn't leveled up at all. Next up, we're using a mixture of the brand new netherite blocks and the even more recent polished basalt blocks, also with the basalt blocks in the background. This actually looks kind of like some kind of steel bar, and it's a really nice connected pillar texture if you want to use some kind of horizontal beams or something. I decided to use some kind of machinery. It's like a dark, almost diesel punk style build, and it looks really awesome. I can imagine this in some kind of 20th century war kind of build, or in some kind of diesel punk or steampunk kind of build. It just looks really cool as some kind of metal beams in a crane like I've done here, or any other machinery. And it could also even be used as some kind of conveyor belt or something like that. It just looks really, really awesome in my opinion. Moving on to our another brand new floor design using the light grey shulker boxes and the top of the polished basalt blocks. Now this actually doubles up as a storage system. Now it is kind of difficult to tell what's where, so it's not very convenient, but you could technically use it as a storage system and it still looks really awesome from above. It is very expensive once again and probably works best in creative mode, and I believe if you fly really far away, it kind of, the shulker boxes will render out and you won't be able to see them completely. However, close up it does look really nice, and it is probably one of my favourite floor designs of the lot. Moving on, we have a very simple floor design for the Nether Hub. You can probably tell I was kind of running out of ideas, but I did have to get all 10 of them, okay? But the floor design here, it just matches the nether portals. It does work really well just following the colour scheme. And while it is once again pretty expensive, it would be a nice floor design for nether portals. And once again we've got the bottom texture using these blocks as well, just as a ceiling block once again. And my final design is actually a really, really cool looking light source. Now you have to be careful not to right click them. I'll show you what that does in a minute if you're not fully aware, but I think this would look really nice along some kind of hallway, just as some very small looking lights, and they do actually give out quite a lot of light when they're in their full level state. So you can just imagine this being a repeating pattern, possibly along a nether portal tunnel or something like that, and it just looks really cool. Until of course you right click it. Yeah, it's basically like the bed in the nether. It will explode, but in the overworld this time. Anyway, these are all 10 of my designs. I hope you enjoyed them. I really do like each of these designs. It is a really awesome block, both for its functionality and for its appearance. And while its uses are definitely limited, when they are used, they are really effective. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please, as usual, leave any suggestions down below. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.